You are now in the Backcourt, a Brooklyn Nets podcast presented by Ticketmaster. I am your host, Lucas Kaplan of Nets Film Focus and a writer for NetsDaily, covering who else but the Brooklyn Nets. As always, alongside me is Sarah Kustok, color commentator, Yes Network, a whole bunch of other things, but that's what we're focused on today. Sarah, what's up?
We're back home. Let's go.
Thank God.
BK, the Clays. I know it was a trip, but yeah, all is good. No complaints, Lucas. I get to sit here and hang with you and talk Nets, so nothing could be better.
So you did all 6 games. The Nets were in Denver, and then they had 4 games on the West Coast, and then they went to OKC. That's only 3 games. Am I missing one?
Well,
Denver,
Utah, Portland,
Utah. I missed you. Denver, Utah, West Coast.
Portland.
Then
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
then
It's
OKC.
easy. It was long. It was long. It
It
was
was
long.
long. It was long. In fact, all 4 games the Nets have played since we recorded last time were a part of that road trip. So the road trip was broken up into 2 episodes for us. Since we recorded last time, they had a big win in Portland, a big loss against the Clippers, and then down to the wire against the Los Angeles Lakers, a game that was very exciting for my own couch. I'm sure there in crypto.com/staples, of course, was great. And then a loss to the Thunder where they actually played pretty well, I thought, for like 2.5 quarters, like the majority of the game. And I think we're buried by just a slow start, which, you can't do against the league's best team, maybe one of the best teams of all time if you just look at net rating. So I guess overall, you were there for every game, I believe. What were your takeaways, just generally speaking, being in the arena?
I would say, Lucas, because there was such discrepancy. Explained it well. I was in the arenas and sitting there calling every one of the games. And there was vast swings. And I know we already talked about the early part of the road trip, but that Portland win felt so enriching, rewarding for the team. There were so many great things to take from that with the collective team effort of how everyone played. And so I think that's the stuff you draw from. The Clippers loss, a lot of ugliness to it in a lot of different capacities. What I will say is that the Nets were missing a lot of key players. And I know they've been without players in and out, changing rotations, lineups throughout the course of the season. But that one, you're not only missing a lot of players, but it was a Clippers team that was desperately looking to get back on track. They had the compliments of pretty much their full roster. They are one of, if not the best defenses. Well, we'll get to that with Oklahoma City. One of, I think, when they're all healthy and available and engaged, one of the best defenses in the league, and they showed that. So there was a lot of reasons that I think that one unfolded the way it did. The Lakers loss, and I know we can get into more, but just generally speaking, again, I thought there was a lot of good to take from that. That was a Lakers team that is same type of situation, especially when you look at the Western Conference, especially when you look at these teams competing for the postseason. Were trying to get themselves in a state, in a track of how they want to play, how they want to perform, very motivated, playing at home. Despite the fact Anthony Davis was not playing, you still had LeBron James and a lot of other characters that, and our friend Dorian Finney-Smith,
Yeah.
congratulations to him for the birth of a baby boy, was not playing with the team. But there was a lot of areas that I thought the Nets really showed out well, uh, even though they were unable to close things out at the end with that final shot. And then finally, like the last game of the trip, you look at Oklahoma City. They're, to me, I just blown away with how they're playing. And playing like one of, if not the best team in the league. Going back to that defense, and they were locked in.
Yeah,
And
they
that's
were.
where I'll finish that off by saying Mark Dagnall, who I think is a tremendous coach, has been fun and impressive to watch his growth along with the growth of that team. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander playing like an MVP candidate, playing like the MVP candidate. Uh, it- Coach Dagnall talked before the game about how scary it is to play a team like the Nets, who fight, who are so organized, the respect he has for Jordy Fernandez, just different areas of what makes this group dangerous. And I felt like you could feel that in the way that the Thunder started the game. There was
Hmm.
a sense of purpose, there was a respect, and there was an urgency. And so I think that lended itself to maybe why the Nets got down so big early. And then against a team like that playing at home and in that building, I don't know if you've been at, it's now Paycom Center, Chesapeake Energy, changing name. That crowd is absolutely tremendous. It is a very, very, very challenging place, I would imagine, for opponents to play in. Fun atmosphere, but challenging. And so I think that was just, to your point, too much to overcome, though they did really, I thought, do a good job in showing their resiliency and how they fought back and had a solid two, 2.5 quarters there once the game got underway.
Yeah, I think what OKC showed is that I'm just looking at the Nets stats overall since we recorded last time. So those 4 games. OKC really showed that there's a difference between playing hard and playing hard in addition to really, I guess, streamlined, efficient, like not just making shots, but in terms of sticking to the game plan and doing what you do. And I think Brooklyn has some of the injuries have caught up to them. It's just tough. You have D'Angelo in 2 games, 3 games, Ben in couple games, Cam Johnson, the guys whose whose hands the ball's in all the time. And then they're in and out. And I think that just caught up to the Nets, especially in the Clippers game. And then in the Thunder game, as I said, I'm looking at the numbers. The rebounding numbers are pretty good, as a general baseline for effort, like
Yeah.
offensive rebound percentage, defensive rebound percentage. They're playing very hard. They're crashing the glass. Shout out to Day'Ron Sharpe for a lot of that on the offensive end. But that's not enough. And we've complimented the fight of this team often. That's not always enough against these
Yeah.
top shelf teams that you know what you're getting. You know the identity, you know the play style. And so I'm definitely curious. They passed the halfway point of the season while you were on the road and on the West Coast. So I'm curious this second half, what type of identity emerges. And again, it's tough when you have such a constantly shuffling roster. But the game before that OKC game, I was really impressed. I was really impressed twice, obviously. The Portland game came all back after the Utah loss, if you can think all the way back to
Yeah.
that. And we
Absolutely.
recorded after that, and we talked about the bounce back that they might show. They bounced back with 132 points. And in LA, LA doesn't get to 90 points in that game without an incredible shot-making display, I thought, by LeBron and Austin Reeves at the end. I mean, I was really impressed by Brooklyn's defense that game, and LeBron and Austin Reeves just hit some tough shots. That's kind of a basic takeaway, but that's what it felt like to me in the fourth quarter.
Basic, but
Yeah.
factual. Like that was honestly, that was one of the more we've had a lot of fun games, and
Yeah.
I think anytime it's a close game,
Right.
but the back and forth of shot making down the stretch of that fourth quarter was
Yeah.
terrific. It was fun to watch.
You had a moment where you just started laughing on the broadcast after I think Zaire hit a 3 or somebody hit a 3 to tie it again because it was 82-82 and then it was 91-91 after 3 threes each on each side. Zaire hit a 3. Noah Clowney hit a huge 3 towards the end of the game to cut it to 1. But I thought the Nets played very well defensively and very
Absolutely.
compactly.
Austin Reeves, and we've seen that in his career, but he goes off and has a career high. He was hitting
Yeah.
some of the step back. He was in his bag,
Yeah.
and it was one of those circumstances where we was playing off LeBron, and then like he was making some just nasty moves and shots and really impressive things, and then the Nets would maybe miss a shot and LeBron would go coast to coast and just be a locomotive just coming through and bully his way through and just do some unreal things. But you saw that, and you saw again the motivation of the Lakers to win at home. They knew that was a game they absolutely needed, but the Nets kept responding. And I think that's why, and even that shot at the end of the game in Russell, that, making his return, the second return, as a net back to play the Lakers there in LA, an opportunity to potentially hit a 3 to win. Like there was a lot of things about it that the outcome, no, you don't like, but the process you go about with it. And I think those are the things with this group as they're building and as they're building out a foundation. Noah Clowney hitting that big shot,
Hmm.
those to me are moments you're going to carry through your career, because everything always is muscle memory. And
Yeah.
for as much as you want to talk about wins and losses and certain stats and what things look like, especially for young players, when you experience things in a league and whether you find success, you find failure, whatever it is, you're going to know how that feels. So the next time you're in that moment, you're going to be able to perform in a different way, or you're going to learn or take something from it. If you are engaged in wanting to be a better player, be a better teammate, be a better team collectively, and those shared experiences that I think a lot of these players are having now should and will hopefully benefit them. And I think that Lakers game is a perfect example of that. I've been here before and I've hit a really big shot in a very clutch moment or a timely moment, and I'm going to come back and have that level of confidence next time. And I think you see that in players, you see that progression of their career. But I think that's the hope for this group, in that situation and in that circumstance specifically. Same thing with that Oklahoma
Hmm.
City game. Like feeling that type of
Yeah.
defense just swallowing you up, swarming, what that looks like, how that looked early with the Thunder, just in everyone's jerseys all over the place, getting steals, getting picks, draining through. I mean, they shot threes in a way that they never shoot. That also just snowballed that early lead. But then the Nets settled in and they had their composure. And I think the players had a better understanding of the timing, the feel, and the physicality, all of that. And that's what it's about. Like, that is what it's about, especially sometimes when you're playing groups for the first time or getting these experiences for the first time.
Yeah, especially an OKC game that, again, is not just great, but historically so, especially on defense and the way they swarm and turn you over, at this part of the season. That Noah Clowney three, like you mentioned, it was great. And one of my favorite things about it, again, I remember it was 102.98. There was like 40 seconds left. The Nets got a 2-for-1, which led to them having a chance to win the game. And Noah ran off movement, and it was a cut that the Nets often run. Not to get too specific, but
No,
just
please. That's what we're here for.
that shout out to former Tar Heel and NBA champion Danny Green, the Danny Green cut along the baseline, where you will go from the weak side to the strong side corner while an action is taking place. Not to put the Nets secrets out there, but that is not a staple, but a factor, a little tweak in their offense that they often run. Guys cutting through baseline while there's a ball screen, a handoff going on. Noah Clowney, 40 seconds left, big possession, need to have it. Makes that cut as he would do if they were up 30 with 40 seconds left. Gets to the corner, hits a three kind of like off movement with a hand in his face. So these are the moments that you really reflect on. And when you talk about growth and long-term growth, playing in these close games or playing against historically elite teams or putting up 132 points against the Blazers, because every NBA team goes through the highs and lows of a season, but you need some of those highs. And I guess we can circle all the way back to that, because last week we were like, how will they respond against Portland? The healthiest they've been in a while. D'Lo, Ben, Cam Johnson, they all played, and man, that offense looked good. There's still a lot of offensive talent on this team, and every team has to get healthy, but the Nets, I think, especially so. What did you see that game besides just shot making?
Assist numbers,
Yeah,
the fun
yeah.
they were playing with, the joy
Hmm.
they had of all being out there. And there are no excuses, but when this team is healthy, when they have the complements of their roster and everyone, and give credit to everyone who has contributed at different moments. This is not to say that everyone matters 1 through 17, but you felt it. You
Yeah.
saw it. You saw how they played and performed, and it continued to build off of one another. And there was a variety in how they were able to score. I thought too defensively they did such a nice job, but that response too after Utah, those are the things that show is kind of the character of this group, the disposition of this group. But I can't, and I should have it. I don't have the exact assist total. Um, but you felt everyone doing something at an important, timely moment, and it stirred the game. And hearing from the guys and watching them and stuff, you could see that togetherness, and that
Hmm.
to me is the special stuff that we continue to witness with this group.
Yeah, the togetherness is very impressive. And even like when I'm looking at guys on the bench or in street clothes with the
That's
injuries,
yes,
you can see it.
yes.
The assist numbers, they had 36 assists in that game. Not a season high, but definitely up there, one of their 10 highest totals. My favorite stat from that game is that all 12 players that touched the court won their minutes, finished with a positive plus minus. So I don't know how often that happens, but
Not often,
not often.
in its little things like that, and I think the numbers back the eye test and what you were watching.
As we move to Brooklyn's finest player that we want to shout out, give some love to, I got to give it to D'Angelo Russell. You know, it really would have been a slam dunk case if he made that shot in LA. I think sometimes you want it more for them than they want it for
Yes,
themselves. You know, it's
yes,
like
yes.
he wanted it, but as a professional athlete, I'm sure he's used to missing some shots that he'd want back. I really was watching from home. You know, it was like 1 a.m. here on the East Coast. I was, I wanted it for D'Lo, but he'll be okay. He doesn't, you know, he's got enough going on. And speaking of stuff he's got going on, when he touches the court for the Nets, I mean, their offense and the ball movement. We know he's a great pick and roll passer. We've known that since we first saw him play in Brooklyn. But just the hit ahead passes, I've said it so many times, the extra passes. He had a real nice one to Jalen Wilson in the Lakers game. Cleaning the glass, great stats website. He's played 140 minutes, right, for the Nets so far. So the sample sizes aren't huge when you think about all the minutes they've played without him on the court. But their transition offense is like 6 points better, 5 points better per 100 possessions, which is the difference between the worst transition team in the league and the best. And that'll obviously normalize as he plays more minutes, but he just gets them into offense. He makes the right play. The ball's hopping more when he's on the court. And as a point guard, you know, who's coming into a new system, who has a lot to learn, who's playing with new teammates, some injured, some not. He's just done everything you've asked for. And something I noticed on TV that you might have noticed sitting courtside is the way he talks on defense, the way he communicates and points guys and puts guys in a place. I've just been really impressed with D'Lo, you know, who's in a tough spot coming into a new team midseason, all the shuffling stuff. But I have to give him my Brooklyn's finest. Yeah, I just loved watching him play.
We've been doing this for too long together, Lucas. You took the player out of my mouth and all the words out of my
Uh,
mouth. I think the most important, all of those things I would double down on. I think the most important thing to remember, despite the fact he's coming back on his second stint
mhm.
with the Nets, as you said, this is an entirely new situation. So
Yeah.
yeah, he may know where the locker room is and the weight room is and how to get from one place to another into Barclays. Entirely different coaching staff, entirely different roster, brand new team system. All of these things are extremely different, and that is 95% of what a player is going through on a day-to-day basis. On top of the fact that he has been a little in and out with injury, his presence on the floor, you cannot replicate how that changes what the Nets are able to do and how others
Mhm.
play. And I think as you continue to watch, to your point about the communication, um, think about how many like easy layups Cam Johnson has gotten,
Yeah.
or Nick Claxton, or just different players with their ability to cut off of him because of feel, because of reads, because you've got smart, intelligent basketball players on the floor that understand how to play with one another, and that like savviness or veteran presence. You see a quick eye glance and a beautiful play happens. All of those things, I think, have been a progression of how we watch and witness what D'Angelo Russell was earlier on in his career. And I think anytime you could see a player on a day-to-day basis up close, and there is a visible difference of the growth in play, the growth in feel, the growth in maturity, the growth in leadership. That's fun. Like that's fun to see. It makes you really excited and proud for that player, for the work that they put in, and for the different challenges throughout their journey. And so I think, yeah, it's been great to see. He's given us a lot of highlight plays, but also just how the team plays. I think there's a different level of composure and poise and production that has very much been the fingerprints and the impact that he's had.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you would want from him in a trade. I mean, Dorian Finney-Smith, the Lakers get the role player that they were searching for. The Nets probably needed more of that offensive creation and offensive just leadership given their roster. So I think you can say the trade has been one of those rare win-wins for both sides. In 6 games, right, with the Nets so far, he's averaging 13 points and 8 assists. He's shooting 37% from three, shooting, yeah, he's missed one free throw so far, but he's winning his minutes drastically. I mean, it's again small sample size, but he has the highest plus mile differential on the team. They are 17 points better when he plays. Again, small sample size, it'll normalize, but man, the numbers, the eye test, all this stuff bears out his impact since, I guess, rejoining the franchise. And it's kind of a funny, the first half of the season, you forget how long the NBA season is, especially me. I was covering the Liberty, the WNBA season was 40 games. It's going to be 44. The playoffs are like best of 3. The first round is best of 5. First half of the NBA season is a long journey, and we're there right now. The Nets have now crossed the 41 game threshold. A lot happened. They made a couple trades. They went through 2 different long West Coast road trips. And second half of the season, like 60% of their games are at home. They have the most home games left in the league, which is nice. But just general takeaways. You think back to the first episode we recorded. We wanted to see how rookie head coach Jordy Fernandez, can't believe he's still a rookie at this point. We wanted to see how he would be in game. We wanted to see how the team would take after him. All of these kind of big picture stuff, these questions. So where are you at thinking about the first half of the season so far? Has that gone to your expectations? Has Jordy Fernandez made a certain impact on you? I guess zooming out a little bit, what do you have to say about the first half of the season?
He has. I don't even know if I had true expectations of what we could expect, both from him, from the staff, from the team, performance, all of that. However, everything from the start of how impressed I was during the preseason, during sitting and watching
Mm-hmm.
practices, during training camp, looking at the organization, looking at the attitude, the mentality, the energy, all of that has continued to exceed what I believe is what you watch on a day-to-day basis for a team who has dealt with a lot of ups and downs, a lot of challenges, a lot of struggles, a lot of changes. And it's hard to think. I don't even consider him a rookie head coach. Sometimes
Yeah.
there's opponents you're playing, or this individual in their first year as a head coach. And it's because yes, he's been a head coach in different stops.
Yeah.
He's has a long resume of places and very successful places that he was assistant associate head coach. But it's to me been so fluid in how he's able to in-game coach, how he's able to resonate with players, and the management of that off the court and aside from those game situations, practices, even the distribution of how well the coaching staff works together.
Mm-hmm.
You could feel that, you could see that, the responsibilities that are shared, how players react to that, even going back to the response of teams after a tough loss.
Yeah.
All of those things to me just continue to be so exciting, give you so much optimism for what's to come in the future and the type of success you're going to find. And I've said this probably a handful of times before, and the last thing I'll say is, to me, the mark of the way other coaches and opposing coaches speak about him
Right.
in such a genuine, authentic, full of respect and impressed way, that's when your counterparts, your colleagues, when you have earned the respect in a way that they know the job you're doing, and it forces them to be better at their job and better for their players and better for the teams because they know that they're up against you in the type of competition then they will see. That to me is when you hit a point that, okay, you're doing things the right way, and you never see a point where he or the team feels complacent or
Yeah.
like, oh, we're doing it. We've reached this. We've done this. This is what we needed to do. We've established ourselves. No, every single day, showing up in the same way with the same attitude, with the same hunger, the same motivation. And that's what you want.
And part of that is having a roster that is suited for him, players that, need to get 1% better every day, as is kind of his mantra, get 1% better every day. Whether that's Cam Johnson, trying to become a player that has more offensive responsibility on a team, that isn't just a role player, but can be, a featured component of a high level offense. Whether that's Ben Simmons trying to come back from injuries and be a stable rotation piece for a whole season. Not that the injuries were his fault, but just the value he can provide over an 82-game season. Whether that's like Keon Johnson and Tyrese Martin, need to get 1% better every day to cement themselves as NBA players inside kind of the fringes of a rotation. So I think the roster, there was a lot of opportunity for him when he took this job, and I think he has made the most of that opportunity. The thing that's jumped out to me is like there is one message from everyone you hear, and there's no talking at it both sides of his mouth. He's like, we're going to do this. I want this team to be about this. And then you watch him play, and it's like that. And that's
Yeah.
hard. That's hard in the NBA and professional sports when
Yep.
everybody's got to get their own, everybody's career is at stake. Managing these locker rooms, kind of getting the team on one track is hard. And with the Nets, I feel like everything, I used this word before talking about the Thunder, but I mean the whole organization right now is streamlined in one direction. When he says something, it's not lip service. You see it on the court. When he says he wants Noah Clowney to shoot threes, and have no conscience, you see it on the court. And so that's what I've been most impressed by a rookie head coach. Again, I should say rookie NBA head coach. He's been the coach of a G League team. He's been the coach of Canada men's basketball. But for me, that is such a crucial detail that I don't really know that I thought about before this season. They just feel like they are all on the same page, and you just know that's going to pay off in the long term. And speaking about the long term, now looking at the second half of the season, I thought that'd be a nice time to bring up now the next net. Taking it back, this is our 13th episode. 13 episodes ago, I talked about Sean Marks' introductory comments on the season. General Manager Sean Marks said this season, as we kind of enter this new phase of Brooklyn Nets basketball with a new head coach, right? We're looking to find the next Nets. Who's going to be here long term? So I thought, the next net. Good name for a little podcast segment. Who do we want to see from in the future? What do we want to see them do? So this second half of the season, do you have a name or two names that, all right, they had this first half of the season. Maybe once they get to the All-Star break and they get a week off, their legs will refresh. What do you want to see from this player? You think they could have a breakout second half, or you think it's a great opportunity for growth? Who do you want to bestow the crown of next net upon?
I think we've hit everyone throughout the course of all our
We have.
podcasting. So, no, I'm gonna make it brief and go with Zaire Williams. I think he is a player who's shown so much promise in what you had anticipated of him coming from Memphis. The length, the energy, the defensive presence, versatility, and how he can guard. And then he's shown growth on the offensive side, and that's always been the question with him about the consistency of three-point shooting, and it feels like he's really shown flashes of that, and more than just flashes. And so I'm excited to watch, what does this look like in the second half, and what does this look like in terms of him continuing to get comfortable, hopefully continuing to be healthy and on the floor, and how he's able to work towards that player. I mean, the fact that he's only 23 years old, he's in his fourth year in the league. He's still a young player, but being a 10th overall pick, what does it look like now that he's in a situation and a fit that has seemingly really benefited him? And so he's the guy that I'm going to have an eye on because I have a lot of optimism for what he can be and what his potential is in this league.
Yeah, and it was impressive that he's been playing his best basketball after an injury that caused him to miss at least a month of the season.
Exactly.
That's not easy to do. And he came back shooting confidently. So I think that gives you some insight into the type of player, mindset, worker he is, which should give you optimism for that second half. For me, I'm going to go with Jalen Wilson. He was my pick last time for just looking at a shorter term view, but he struggled to shoot the ball a little bit, and then he came back, right? I think some of his best play of the season came in Portland, came in against the Thunder, against the Lakers. He led the Nets in scoring in that Clippers game.
Yes. Yep.
He's
Yep.
had some good games. Did you notice anything from him on the road trip?
I I think he's in some ways you mentioned the Clippers game stood out because he was the one person that was knocking down shots even when
Yeah,
things seemed like a real big struggle. And sometimes that's hard to do when it feels like the walls are crashing in on
yeah,
everyone. Um, I think it continues to be making sure the whether shots are going in or out, still doing all the little things, and the attention to detail on the defensive side, and that's the stuff that probably he can make. He's a shot maker, whether shots are going in or not.
yeah.
A belief that he can shoot the ball and he can knock down threes and be that in this league. But
Hmm.
it's all the other continuing to do that we saw at the rebounding, the offensive rebounding, the hustle plays, getting on the floor, and especially defensively being in the right spots. How he can bring a solid presence on that end of the floor. That's the stuff that I would be watching with him.
Yeah, and you just want to see again, I kind of mentioned this, but him carve out that role beyond a shot maker. What's he going to bring to the floor? You know, the second half of this season is going to represent a huge chunk of his total minutes as a professional player by the time we get to the end of it. So,
Yeah.
still early in his career and still time for him, obviously, to kind of make his way and create kind of his identity. So, I'm looking forward, if I could sum it up in a sense, him continuing to create his identity as an NBA player. And normally now we would do trivia and we would sign off, but it's a special week in Nets world. On Saturday, Miami comes to Brooklyn to play the Heat, but that's not even the main event of the night. It surrounds the main event of the night, which is Vince Carter's jersey retirement, his number 15 jersey, which I wear when I play rec league. When I was in high school, because of Vince Carter, I got this poster behind me. Vince Carter, his jersey going up into the rafters at Barclays Center. I'm so glad I'm going to be there for it. Just so excited for it, and it's going to be a great day in Nets history and for him. And so just now this is your coworker now. So how are you feeling watching Vince? How are you excited for it? We don't know what it's going to look like yet, but VC's jersey going
I
up in the
just think
rafters.
as much as he's a tremendous player, professional Hall of Famer, the list goes out. He is just such a tremendous person who I'm honored to call a colleague. I'm honored to call a friend.
Hmm.
I appreciate how much he values and cares about his time with the Nets organization, the teammates he's had, the team. And I think the thing that stands out to me, maybe not most, because obviously his highlight plays and dunks and game winners, and
Yeah.
he's got it all. How gracefully and beautifully he finished and played his career. I think about the times when I got to know him best was when he was in Sacramento or when he was in Atlanta, and the
Hmm.
veteran he became. And it's different for
Yeah.
everyone as they finish out their playing career. But I think he understood the value of the leadership he could provide, how he could mentor young players, the addition that he could be in an organization, in a group. Talking to him throughout, so many of those times, or seeing him, I can't even imagine the value that it had on players now of experiencing that and being his teammate in a place that he knew his role, he understood it, he accomplished so much, but he wanted to be there to do those things, and that to me is just truly special of your love and the respect that you pay to the game because you
Hmm.
care so much about making sure that it continues to grow and continues to be better for all of those that you play with and that you call brothers.
It's hard to find someone who does not have glowingly positive things to say about Vince Carter. And at the end of the day, that's above all. And obviously, for me, the basketball memories are so important to me and a certain generation of Nets fans. That obviously supersedes it. But here's some trivia. Here's just a fact. He still has the greatest scoring season in Nets history, points per possession. He scored 38 points per 100 after the trade when he came to the Nets in 2004. That's the best ever. That would rank fifth in the NBA this year in scoring per possession. So he was an all-time scorer. last thing, my favorite memory, I went to bed. They were on the West Coast. They were playing the Jazz. They were in the number 1 seed. I'm like, they're not going to beat the Jazz. I was like 7. I was scared. I was like, they got Darren Williams, Andre Karolinko, Paul Millsap, Mehmet Okur. I was like, they're not beating the Jazz. I wake up watching SportsCenter, flashes across the bottom line. Nets 116, Jazz 115. I watch the highlight before I go to school. Pulls up from 35, the game winner. Now I've rewatched it so many times. I feel like I lived it. I could go on and on and on. But we're going to stop there, and I'm sure we'll pick back up next Tuesday when we record.
Yes.
Wednesday when
Yes.
it comes out, and we'll talk about the night that was Saturday that we're currently looking forward to. Vince Carter, legend, New Jersey Nets legend, Nets franchise legend, number 15. So happy it's going up. And that'll do it for us on this episode of The Backcourt, episode number 13, a Brooklyn Nets podcast presented by Ticketmaster. From Sarah, this is Lucas Kaplan of NetsDaily, Nets Film Focus, signing off. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, whatever it is. We appreciate you guys, and looking forward to the second half of this Nets season.